Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 17 years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. We're meeting with Onyi Odunukwe, the CEO of Glow Salons, a franchise that's about to open their 100th location shortly, and has seen 4 times revenue growth in the past 3 years alone. Glow Tanning was voted NWA's Best of the Best, and whether you're looking to get a traditional suntan or a sunless spray tan, Glow Tanning is a place for you. We're going to talk to Onyi about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com. Or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, and you are listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 17 years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show. Well, we're meeting with Onyi Odunukwe, the CEO of Glow Salons, a franchise that is about to open their 100th location shortly and have seen 4 times revenue growth in the past 3 years alone. Glow Tanning was also voted NWA's Best of the Best. Hi, Onyi. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great,
Appreciate
Onyi. It's great. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it as well. You coming on the show, Onyi. You know, we always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Onyi?
Dallas, Texas.
Okay, nice. That's fantastic. You know, and when I do these shows, typically I usually go back to the origin of the business, but for you, I wanted to kind of go back even like a little bit further to when you were like a small child, because I was, reading a lot of different like great stories about you. It was this great story about you selling candy bars and kind of getting like in trouble at school. I want to kind of like go back to that time, because it seems to me like you were almost like destined to be an entrepreneur, and I'm curious like where that came from. Was it like, is it your culture? Was it your parents? Like, where did all that come from?
Yeah, so a really good question. A lot of research too. So for us, naturally, so I'm Igbo by culture, which is a tribe in Nigeria, one of the largest, and just known for entrepreneurship and just like being hustlers in general. Yeah, I mean, now, like, as I'm older, it's almost like that's literally what we're known for, kind of in the blood, because my parents are not entrepreneurs, you know, really at all. So, so yeah.
That's great. And, you know, Nigeria is also known for education. So it sounds like, and your parents, did they go into education as well? Were they teachers? What did they do, Onyi?
So they're both doctors.
Both doctors. Okay, fantastic. That's terrific. So, you know, maybe we could talk a little bit about, you know, because you're an entrepreneur and, you know, you have this ability to, you know, spot opportunities. What was it like? Maybe you can go back to the origin of this business and when you decided, you know, that this was the right business for you.
So essentially, I started off in supplements. I used to be a bodybuilder, and so that obviously made sense. So I got a lady to Owner's Finance a Max Muscle franchise that she had that was not doing well. To me, I was able to turn it around, pay her off, you know, in less than 18 months. And then I looked at expanding to a second location.
Right.
And that second location near campus, I went to the University of Arkansas. So it's right across the street from the University of Arkansas. Well, the space was a lot larger than what was needed for a supplement store. So I had to add something into the space. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll do a, you know, fitness studio. You know, I was a personal trainer at the time. It made sense. And then I randomly was like, oh, let me do, you know, tanning. Because I knew a lot of students my age or you know, at the time I was 21, turning 22. So I knew a lot of students, you know, that did tan and said that the tanning in Fayetteville, Arkansas sucked. So, and most of the students, they go to the University of Arkansas from Dallas, so they had like a different quality. So I said, oh, maybe I can meet a need here.
That's interesting. And then, so at what point, Onyi, like, did you know you were ready to like franchise the concept? I mean, was it something early on you knew? You said, okay, I have something here. It's a system. It's a brand, and I could take this and I could franchise it throughout the country, which you've done very well, by the way. At what point did you know? It's weird. So I never had the I never went into it thinking about franchise. Right.
And I think, you know, a lot of people have reached out to me via social media and like requested help or mentorship in franchising.
Right.
And I just tell them, it's like, you need to not focus on franchising, focus more on your operation and getting your stores, you know, healthy, and because a lot of times they want a franchise, they don't even have a profitable store. Right. So, like, prove out your concept, right? So, So I basically proved out the concept, was growing, and I had a mentor that kind of like helped me on a few things, and I wanted to pay it back to other people. So I would help other people and just like literally give them everything that I did, open everything up, open the books up, open the operation up, and they would, you know, copy what I was doing. Well, one of the things that I was doing was we have a centralized customer service. So it's just like if you call, you know, AT&T, and there's like a call center that handles all your calls. So for us, if you call us, we have a call center with like 50 agents that handle every single customer call. So no calls go to the stores. Because we realize that if they call the stores, then the people in the stores are focused on the phone more than focused on the customer in front of them. So when I was helping people out and they only had, you know, one location, they can't run that operation because you can't afford to pay someone to answer the phone. You know, for HR, you can't afford just to have one single recruiter. You can't afford to have a marketing department. So because of that and me helping other people and not being able to give them the systems that I had, then I said, okay, well, how about we just franchise? And by franchising, we have a collective pool of money to pay for these things, and we can all use these resources. So that's really how it started. It was never the idea of, hey, let's franchise.
Right. And I mean, and you've done very well. And I mean, you know, it sounds like, you know, Glow Tanning is almost up to like, you know, that 100 mark. You know, and I see you're kind of like all over the country, and I'm familiar with the brand name too. I mean, I've heard of, you know, so it's great to, you know, finally have you on the show. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how Glow Tanning is using technology today, Onyi, compared to maybe, you know, 5-10 years ago.
Oh man, so we I like to almost consider us like more of like even a tech company than we are tanning. So we have three developers, full-time developers on staff. We have a whole tech department, and we literally try to utilize technology in everything that we do. From like for instance, even like I said, our maintenance is one of the hardest things within our business and industry, and there's very limited people that can fix these pieces of equipment, and the equipment, most people don't know, but the equipment nowadays are anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000 for one piece of equipment.
Is that right?
So yeah, the technology is completely different. So now there's an all LED bed that just came out that's over $70K. Right.
Wow.
So that that's and the other beds that are 50,000. So these are very expensive machines. They all are made in Germany and exported here or imported here. So for us, getting these fixed, the techs are charging $100 an hour. You don't know when their availability is going to be. If they show up, they're charging you drive time. All this stuff, right? So like, how can we fix this problem? So one of the things that we did was we created a maintenance chatbot using AI, where we basically, if you go in and you tell them what the problem is, it will tell you what the solution is, and then when it comes down to actually say replacing a part or something, we had our maintenance department took videos of them replacing the part. So basically so those are the type of things that we do. We also integrate via like the APIs and like our software to pull out numbers in real time, to have the metrics that we want, so staff can see it, owners can see it, owners can compare themselves to other stores to see whether they're above or below average. So we do a lot of things with technology that's pretty impressive.
That's great. And this is the tanning. I'm just thinking of the tanning industry. Onyi. I mean, it's not a small industry, is it? I mean, it's I don't know what the numbers are, but I know it's got to be safe to say it's a pretty big industry, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a $1 billion industry. And it's a $1 billion industry, but it's weird because it is small, but it's not. So what that means is there's not many players. Right. But it's a big industry, right? It's a $1 billion industry, but without that many players. So that's the beauty of it. Is for us, the best thing about it is, number one, there's not that many people in it. There's actually probably less stores so the prediction is that the industry, according to the economists and everything, the industry is going to grow at a 4% clip over the next few years. But the amount of salons is going down. So there's a lot of consolidation. So there's growth in the industry, dollars-wise, consolidation in terms of the amount of stores. And the reason why is because the big players are going in and buying everybody up. The mom and pop stuff.
Sure. That makes
for you to get into the industry, there's only two ways to go in. There's one is you have to buy out a mom and pop, which is the cheaper route to do, or two is to open a new salon. To open a new salon, you're not able to do that without joining a franchise. And the reason why is the cost is astronomical. Our equipment cost is very high, but it's even higher if you were not us, right? And number two is it's impossible to get a loan unless you were a part of a franchise that the FDD shows clearly. Hey, these people are very profitable. Yes. So because restaurants and tanning salons are the number one defaulters historically for SBA loans. So unless you have a proven concept, for us, we've never been denied an SBA loan. We've never had a store close. We're at 100 stores without one closing. So we get, whatever we want via the SBA. But if, Tom's Tannin Stop wanted to go and open, and he said, hey, I want $700,000 to go open the store, that's who's going to say no.
Sure.
So it insulates us, which is the beauty of it, because not everybody can just go open one up.
Here's an interesting question for you, Onyi. You might have to think about it for a second, but what's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since launching Glow Tanning? I imagine you probably have hundreds of stories throughout the years, but I mean, does anything stand out where you kind of say, wow, or maybe aha moments or something like that?
So I think of me a few things. So I mean, so during COVID, I think the response, so there's been a concerted effort over the last probably 15 years to really talk negatively about tanning in the media and, trying to link, skin cancer to tanning. And, there's a couple things about that, right? Number one is there's never been a tanning salon sued and lost on being the causation of it being tanning for skin cancer. Number two is when it comes to skin cancer comes from burning, not from Number three is that the same thing that you get outside, the UV light, is the same thing that you get in the bed. The only thing is one's regulated and one's not, right? Number four is we're so much more educated, whether correctly educated or falsely educated, when it comes to using SPFs, all this other stuff. Our use of SPF from dermatologists telling you, hey, tan less, which a lot less people tan than they did 20 years ago. So they say tan less, use SPF more. Okay. You would think that the rate of skin cancer because of this would be going down. The rate of skin cancer is going up. It's going up. Right. So So people tan less. People use SPF and sunscreens more, and the rate of skin cancer is going up. So we've been lied to, right? And there's actually a study that just came out in the UK that actually said that tanning is good for you. Now overexposure is what's bad, right? So whether you go to the beach and you lay out for 5 hours, or whether you go into the bed and you do more than what you should be doing, so overexposure is bad. That's what causes the issue, right? So since COVID, what we realized was the majority of the people that died during COVID were vitamin D deficient. So that's why people. Trump got this information during one of his briefings and kind of said it really funny, but basically it was like something about sticking UV lights inside of you, right? And what he was trying to say, and probably from the briefing that he got from his guys or Fauci or whoever, was saying that people who actually consume UV light and have a higher vitamin D are less likely. So it's basically since COVID, we've actually had an uptick in the amount of people who tan, and we haven't had any negative press, for the last four years. So that's been really interesting, kind of like change in the narrative.
Yeah, it's a great example for that question, Onyi. I think that's fascinating. What because this is your baby, Onyi. I mean, what types of characteristics do you look for in your franchisees? What's most important to you before you kind of give the green light and say, okay, you're a match for glow tanning? So I would say number one is somebody who's humble. What I mean by humble is or lacks ego. And what I mean by that is, like, we have people that come in and they think they know everything. Right. So they're literally like, for us, we want you to basically shut up, listen to what we tell you, and do it because it works, right? And some people try to come in and say, oh, well, this is how we did it. Maybe they have some previous experience at another salon somewhere, or they have previous experience from another job that they, worked and said, oh, this is, and it's like, no, it's like, you're paying us to tell you what to do, just do what I tell you, and it's going to work. So being humble enough to actually listen. Two is someone who understands that money is not everything. So for us, we never actively tried to grow. And what that means is we've never had like a sales team. For franchising, it's been very organic. Last year, we had 2,500 people apply. We accepted 5. So a lot of our growth is within just the franchisees we already have. So we have franchisees that have, 10 locations, 8 locations, 4 locations. We don't, and we try to make sure that we bring no one on that wants less than 4. That doesn't mean they have to pay for 4. We just don't want to have. Our goal in the next 3 years, 250 locations. We don't want 250 franchisees and 250 locations. We want 50 locations and 250 franchisees. So that's those things. And because, a lot of the people that have applied, some of them financially don't qualify. That's probably what they have. Then out of the other half that do financially qualify, they just think that, hey, I'm going to put the money behind it and it's going to just go, and say no.
We expect an operator, so either you have to have an operator or be the operator.
Okay.
And the reason why is because there's a quality that, for us, we want to make sure there's a brand standard. And it's just like, McDonald's, which is an amazing franchise, whether you like their food or not, the one thing for sure is if you get a Big Mac in London and you get a Big Mac in Dallas, it's the same Big Mac. Right. So there's a quality standard that you understand. Hey, these are McDonald's fries are McDonald's fries. It's not, hey, if I go and have McDonald's fries in Ukraine, it's going to be different from the McDonald's fries in New York. Right. So that's the big thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great response, Onyi. It was interesting. You were talking about, because I've never really heard that before. Is like ego. If someone has an ego, there's probably is someone who's not going to listen. I was interviewing one of the tax franchises many years ago, and I think they had like about 400 different franchisees. And this one gentleman I was interviewing, he became like the number one franchisee. And so I asked him. The question was, I said, well, how did you do that? And he said, I just did what they told me to do, which is kind of like what you're saying, it's just being open to learning and listening, it's just, that's it. It was like you said, he was paying for them to, give advice, and that's all he did. And that's how he became, the number one franchisee. So it's really important, isn't it, to have no ego? I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the biggest thing is so many people just, they think they know everything.
Right. It's so true. Right. It's so true. I think that's great. How does the training work today, Onyi? I mean, does someone come to like corporate headquarters? Is there like some online component to it? Like, how does the training work?
Yeah, we have virtual training. So we have a training department. Our training department is based out of Oklahoma City. And we have, so it's like live, and you hop on and you go through, there's material that you do before class, and then you hop on, and it's interactive, but it's virtual. So we do that, and that's for employees, but then also franchisees will go through that as well. But then we have additional training after they're complete with that, going into a store that, we have a franchisee opening in Oxford, Mississippi, here in a few weeks, and they came to Dallas and trained with one of the district managers for a few days. So we'll do that as well, so that they have they're able to shadow, and they're able to be shadowed, and then also shadow as well. And then typically we try to send someone out on site as well to kind of help them during the transition the first day or two as well.
That's terrific. Yeah, I think that's great. I find that a lot more franchisors are using the online component in conjunction with, traditional training, because it makes sense, is that you can do that training from your home, I guess, too, couldn't you? You know what I mean? Is, at the end of the day or something like that, you can go online and watch this, and then you see more. The franchisee seems a little bit more prepared when they actually do the live component, when they're actually in a storefront. You know what I mean? They probably seem a little bit more comfortable. So it sounds like your franchisees are pretty comfortable once they're getting ready to open the business. Exactly. We want, because the hardest part, really what you're paying for is you're paying for the startup. Right. So you're paying for the startup, and you're paying to just make sure that they're set up correctly. And once they're set up correctly, if they're not set up correctly, they're not going to be successful. And that is our main focus. We also offer VAs very cheaply, like $1,000 a month that we train and we'll hire for them. So the VA can do scheduling, inventory, payroll, all that. But if the franchisee decides they want to do that on their own, they would do payroll once every 2 weeks, inventory probably weekly, scheduling weekly. And then they can check the cameras or check into their store based on what level of management they have at that point. But it just depends. The beginning is really the hardest part, setting up management. We also have a program called Own Your Future, where I realized, because I started in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and, I had my first store, I had 20 employees, all of them students, and we only, typically will have 2 to 5 working at a time. So, we're way overstaffed, and, some of them would work for me for 4 years, and then they would go get their big girl job in quotation. And I was very proud of them, and, we were more like almost like a internship
teach them how to sell. And you know, in life in general, you have to sell. You have to sell yourself in an interview. You have to sell yourself with your spouse, with their parents, with anything you're doing, right? Yeah. So after a while, probably 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, man, how can we stop it to where we can make this a career? Because we have good people that we're losing. Right. So then we started this program. So basically, if you work for us for 3 years, we'll get you a store. Like basically, you'll be a franchisee. So that's great. Part of the issue last year was we had 2,500 people apply. Probably 1,000 of them qualified financially. Out of those 1,000, it was people, you know, let's say you're 50 years old, your net worth a couple $1 million, but you're not trying to go work in a tan salon, right? Right. So you have the money, but you don't have the time. So now we're taking the people who make Glow great, which are the employees, and someone who loves the company, is passionate about it, and then we're linking them with the investor. And essentially they become a 50% partner, but at the beginning they're an employee with an employment agreement that says once the loan's paid off, they now become a 50% partner, right? Oh, wow, so that's great. So the investor is getting 100% of the depreciation. The investor, you know, gets a loan. They get paid back all their cash equity plus the loan gets paid back. And our average store does like $350K profit. So now the investor, say after 3 years, is now making, you know, $175,000 and doing nothing. Right. And then the employee is making $175,000, and that's way more than what they were making as an employee. And then they're able to say that they own something. So we've been doing that, and we have, you know, I mean, we probably have about 10 former employees that have stores now. Some of them have multiple locations. So that's like been a really, really cool way to grow. Oh, yeah. You know, and that's one of the things we've been doing. Yeah, I think that's brilliant, Onyi. Here's a question I've been dying to ask you, because I kind of painted a picture early in the interview, you know, that you were an entrepreneur. It seemed you had all those traits at a very young age. So my question to you is, what advice would you give to our listeners? Onyi, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs, you know, individuals who know that they want to get into franchising, but there's so much out there today. I mean, from everything you've learned up to this point in your life, what advice then would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy your franchise? Yeah, so number one is don't look for something sexy. And what I mean by that is so many people are interested in food franchise. Yeah. Right. And you need to check the FDD. Right. Check the item. Check the item 19. Right. So many of these franchises are, you know, even the ones, some of them are just not profitable. And then the ones that are profitable are, you know, say $80,000, but you're putting in, you know, it's crazy. So the franchise. The franchise might make the franchise might make you know, 100,000. So let's say the you know, the revenue's $1 million. The franchise is charging 7% plus 3% marketing. So the franchise is making $100,000, but the profit margin is 8%. Right. So the franchise is actually making more than the franchisee. That's crazy. Right. Crazy. So that's one. Two is a lot of times people will go with concepts that aren't actually proven out. And I've actually done that before. I own another franchise. I'm a franchisee. I don't want to put them on blast. But going with a franchise that is more like, hey, there's another franchise in this space that does very, very well. This one is more of a concept that's being sold, comparing themselves to this other one, but it hasn't been all the way proven out. And I see that, hey, the quality of the product is just as good or better. There's no reason why this should not be that, but it's not, because there's so many more intangibles that go into it. It's like every single time that somebody tries to copy our concept, which has happened a lot, they always fail. And we end up buying them for pennies on the dollar, you know, whatever, because they think, oh, well, I can get those same beds, I can get a really nice look, and it, you know, but it's just not, that's just not what, you know, that's just not how it works. Right. I think that's great, Onyi. I'm thinking about if you could look into a crystal ball, Onyi, like whether it was like 1 year or 3 years or 5 years down the road. I mean, where do you see Glow Tanning in that time frame, Onyi? 3 years, 250 locations. We're currently the third biggest franchise in our space. That puts us puts us close to second. I think the second one's like 260.
Wow.
So I think in the next 3 years we'll be number 2. That's kind of what I see. I try never to have. I try to do 1, 3, 5 years at the most in terms of goals.
Sure.
Nothing longer than that.
Right. Absolutely. What's the best way, Onyi, for our listeners to get more information on Glow Tanning? Of course, there's the franchise opportunity, but even like the service itself, because you're all over the place. I mean, any websites you can kind of direct our listeners to?
Yeah. So glowtanning.com. So GLO. TANNING, so it's glow without a W, so glowtanning.com.
Okay.
And they go on there. You could just apply. That's our general website. And franchising is the far right tab.
Right.
And they can apply, and then we, our team will get in touch and kind of interview them, and if they qualify, then we can, we always kind of take it to the next step.
Right. Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you today, Onyi. It's been a pleasure for me, and I'd already like to invite you back over the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I think you have a strong brand and a strong system. So I'm excited to follow your success over the next couple of years.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for having us on, and let's hopefully talk like in a year and see how many goals we met.
That sounds wonderful, Onyi. It's great to talk to you, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Coming up in our next segment, we'll be playing a clip from our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on the show. Today you're going to get to hear a quote from Peter Baldini. And Peter was a guest that we had on the show many years ago, and it's interesting because you can kind of go back 13, 14 years ago to our earliest podcast and still learn some great lessons. Peter is the Chief Development Officer for Moran Industries, and Peter, on this particular podcast, discusses some of the several advantages of franchising compared to non-franchise businesses, things like support, guidance, and instantaneous relationships. So here we go with Peter Baldini of Moran Industries.
You know, franchising is all about systems. It's about, business systems that work, okay? And it's not always as all that specific to the widget that you're selling as it is to the systems that you provide the franchisee in order to run their business successfully. Okay? Right. And Moran Industries has the infrastructure in place with all the various support systems that a franchisee really needs to be effective in how they run their business. Keep in mind that a new franchisee coming into owning their first business is not used to having to be the person with all the answers in several different areas of the business world. So someone who opens up an independent business has to be the HR person, the operations person, the marketing person, the financial person. All those different aspects have to be covered, and all those different decisions have to be made. And with a system like Moran Industries, one of the great things is that our franchisees don't really have to be the experts in all those areas. They can pick up the phone any day of the week, and they can call the marketing department or the operations department or the accounting department and get support and answers for the decisions that they have to make on a daily basis. So that infrastructure, is critical to the success of new franchisees who haven't owned their own business before.
Yeah, you're right.
And it starts all the way back in the beginning. It starts all the way back in the beginning when they first sign those agreements with all the help that we give them in the startup phase. You have two different aspects of it. You've got the startup support where we're helping them with, site selection and lease negotiation and equipment purchases and all those types of things. And then you move into a different area of development once they open their doors with the ongoing, support that they receive.
Right, fantastic. You wrote that great article, Peter. It was called "Gaining an Edge with Vendor-Supplier Relations." I saved that one in my archives. It sounds like Moran Industries has strong relationships with their vendor partners, which is fantastic for your new franchisees and your current franchisees, just working with you guys. Did you want to talk a little bit about that and why it's important?
Sure. I appreciate you mentioning that article. Didn't know that you had read it, but I actually, when that article was published, I got a lot of phone calls, from people in the industry about that article.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of a fun article to write because it's something that that I guess you have to be as old as me to understand those experiences,
Right.
but those vendor relationships are very important. My mentor, back years ago, I remember having dinner with him one night, and one of the things that he asked me a question. I said, "Geez, I'm not sure," and he said, what the answer to that is, and he said, "Well, you have to look at, in running a franchise company, you have to look at what all your available resources are to help your franchisees." And he asked me to define what my resources were. And I didn't define it real well at that time when I was a young kid,
Right.
But what I learned through that discussion early on was that you have a lot of different resources that, available to you that you don't always look at, you don't always recognize, and you don't always use properly. And the relationships with your vendors can be tremendous resources in helping your franchisees. We don't sell product to our franchisees. We're not in the product business. We used to be in the product business, and we decided that for our business, at least, some people do that well, but for our business, we decided that it was a distraction, and what we really needed to focus our energy on was our core business, which was being a good franchisor. So we went back at that time and began really establishing strong vendor relationships, negotiating well on behalf of our franchisees to give them the savings so that their cost of goods would be lower than their competitors. Found in the process that, we had many vendors who were willing to do other things for us, who were willing to share ideas with us on advertising and marketing support. For example, we've got a couple of vendors who have very strong marketing departments, and they work closely with our marketing department to help put together ad campaigns for our franchisees. So, the vendor relationships can be much more than just buying product, So our role with our vendors is to negotiate both, purchases and services on behalf of our franchisees to give them the best deal possible out there.
Absolutely. And the franchisees appreciate that, which I guess, you have a stronger relationship between the franchisee and franchisor, because you guys are
correct.
Correct. So
when we sold several years ago, when we sold our wholesale parts distributorship, we actually sold it to one of our vendors as part of the negotiations with bringing them on as a
Franchise Interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.